the dust off of it, put it on the counter and use it. And really, this is one of those things that I tell people, treat it like you would playing the piano or something else. If you'd like to become good at it, then just about 10 minutes a day, throw something in there. Everybody has a few minutes while something's boiling. Your kids are asking questions on homework and you have to hover, but your dinner's done, but you're hovering over them. Or you've got a few minutes in between a project. You're on a phone call and you're standing around. Hey! Yeah! Just don't put your finger on the front of it. So, but yeah, we all have time that is downtime that we could be using to do some of these things. Just make it a habit. And I actually just put it straight in my phone. Look for something to hydrate. Ding! The alarm goes off and I go, oh, what do I have? Because even though I do this almost every day, if I don't put it in my plan for the day, everything goes haywire on the schedule. So I literally just will look for something, or I'll check this or do that. The second question I get asked all the time is, what is the difference between freeze-dried and dehydrated? Because you go and you get this big can over at Emergency Essentials, it's like $40 million, and you're like, what? I'm never going to be able to hydrate that many mushrooms. Actually, dehydration takes out more moisture, so you would have to have probably 3 to 4 times the mushrooms to fill that number 10 can as you do freeze-drying. Freeze-drying is a process in which they flash freeze or flash dry something. So what they do is they take the item and then they do a process that quick pulls out all of the moisture in like seconds. But usually the food maintains its shape. So you'll notice sometimes you'll have something you've dehydrated and then you see it in their stuff and you're going, the size is so different. And that's why. So really, if you look at the cost, and there was a lady, and I'll email that out to you. I've got it at home. She did a thing where she took a bushel of apples and actually did the calculation, and she did the church's cannery on apples, dried apples, which is pretty cheap compared to everywhere else. She still figured out that she was spending about $100 more buying her apples at the cannery than doing it herself. And if you don't have the time, buy the cannery apples. Better to have them than not. If you have the time and you have someone, there's a little guy in our neighborhood who's retired. He's not quite done working, but he doesn't go to a job. He just grows fruit in his yard, puts it in boxes and sells it. He's the cutest little guy. He sells them to me for like $10, a whole entire box. He loves it. I love it. It's a win-win relationship. And I sit and talk with him. He tells me stories. My mother and father-in-law were born in 1910 and 1924. They passed away not long after my husband and I got married. So I feel like I'm reconnecting because I get to hear all the stories from that time period. I love it. It's a win-win. I just know that Mr. Cooper around the corner, we go hang out with him for 30 minutes, buy us some cheap apples, and hear some stories about World War II. We have a good time. So it's just fun. And for him, he loves it because his family isn't nearby. And so he loves to hear about dehydrating, what I'm doing, because he loves doing it. And he gets new tips, and he tells me amazing stuff. He's awesome. So anyway, those are the 2 questions I get asked all the time. And so I hope that after tonight, you'll at least go home, and this will give you a little bit of reference space on where we're going with this. Are there any questions that are burning within you at this point? We'll save most of them for the end, but I fear if there's any questions that you had that you were just like, what does this mean, or what is this? Yes?
Isn't freeze-drying equipment very, very expensive?
Very expensive. So that's why you're paying the money. Absolutely.
And is there a unit that's small enough for home use, not commercial use?
Not that I've seen or I'm aware of that's under $10,000. Now there might be somewhere in Utah made by a small supplier, but I haven't seen it. So definitely, for me, dehydrating is just faster and easier. Now the difference you will have on shelf life, there is a difference. Obviously you can can something, freeze drying it, and it will last 15 or 20 years. Dehydrating, you want to be careful, because I always say you dehydrate foods that you use all the time so that you're rotating them. They say all of the published literature will tell you 1 year. Why? Because that published literature is attached to a person who has liability, and that liability equals an attorney who goes, ha ha, this person is telling people erroneous information. No, I love attorneys. I have a ton of them on retainer for our businesses. I love them. They're my best friends. But I also know that there are those attorneys who choose not to be people of integrity, who will go picking and finding things. And I have it on good authority because my attorneys have said so. They have said so, so that's not from my mouth. And what I don't, so they can't really say, you can have this food for 3, 4, 5 years. I've been doing this long enough that 5 years is the longest I've gone at this point. Probably the longest I will go for anything where I Mylar bag it. But I do watch things very carefully. You're looking for mold, moisture. When I pull it back out, especially after 2 or 3 years, I'm still plinking it on the counter to make sure that it's dry. before I serve it to my family. A lot of times, the way that you overcome that as well is you're going to boil it. So you're naturally going to kill anything that might have been a problem. Because, anyway, when rehydrating, a lot of times with vegetables, you want to go ahead and boil those. For me, I just throw them in a crock pot to make a soup. And so that's the fast and easy way.
What if you put your dehydrated food in a freezer?
Not a problem.
I would think that you could get long-term storage out of something like that. And if you had a loss of power,
you're still good to go because they're perfect. You're probably better off doing that than you are having big slabs of meat and other things. I still have a freezer. I still put popsicles in there and still do some kinds of meat if I get a great deal on it, but usually it's in there as a weigh station to be dehydrated. So because I dehydrate hamburger, chicken, turkey. I try not to do any pork products. I buy those commercially freeze-dried. Like in this meal where I put some sausage, I went ahead and purchased that commercially done. Pork has just got so much fattiness to it. Well, you don't want to just have that go rancid. And so I don't do any pork products myself. I do ham if it's from the deli and it's 96 or 97% fat-free. I'll do those. And then what you're going to do is you're going to towel off the meat halfway in between so you can get any excess oil off of there so it doesn't go rancid. So that one you do have to kind of buzz around it. One of the joys of dehydrating that I love is you set it and you walk away. The house smells brilliant because everybody's walking. Oh, you've been baking all day. And I'm like, yes, I have. So yeah, that's like back in the day when we had those commercials where the lady was like, popped the flour all over her. She brought out the thing of Rice Krispie treats. Like, ooh, ah. Yeah, that's me. Okay, I'm all about, ignore the man behind the curtain on The Wizard of Oz. Yeah, because I want you to feel like you had the best meal ever, and I probably spent 10 minutes on it. So I really want you to feel like you were like, yeah. These are very fast meals, and when you dehydrate them down, they're even faster. And I love that. And so it's just one of the ways that you can prolong food that goes inside your refrigerator. So how many of you want to know what to do with leftovers? Raise your hand. Oh, yeah. So what do? You have one serving or two servings.
I send it to my lunch with my husband.
There you go. Some people have husbands who will not eat that food the second day. My husband will, thank heaven. But it's also bad because I'm like, I need stuff to dehydrate. What are you doing? And he almost ate my meals. He was like, honey, I was like, don't even touch the ones in that. And so he was like, okay, sorry. So I had his done where I said, eat this, not the ones. And he still was like, and I'm like, ah! Yeah, I was holding it. I'm like, ah, what is that? Because I measured this all out so I could give you the actual measurements of things so you could see how much moisture is taken out and the weight difference. So that way you could see. And I should have weighed this out before I cooked it so I could have told you what it was raw, but I'm only partially nerdy, sorry. So I'm easily distracted apparently. What is so fun about this is there's no more opening Franken-fridge with all of the creepy moldy foods in there and you're just going, ah, and then you're weighing out, do I love that Tupperware container enough to wash it out, or do I just let it go? Because we all start buying like the little dollar ones at like the cheapy store with like, you get 20 of them for like $5, so that way you go, let it go, it's in the crappy container, let it go, let it go. And my kids walk out and I'm like, ah, no. So, or you find yourself Ziploc bagging everything so you can have a trial dating period with it to make sure things are going to work, or you have to break up with it. No, let's not do that anymore, okay? Hopefully after tonight you will feel okay to let go on doing that. There are not many foods except that if it has pork products in it. Again, pork, be a little careful. If you purchase the pork and you know that it's 96 to 90 whatever percent fat free, go ahead, throw it in, dehydrate that. But otherwise, I just like to use anything with hamburger, chicken. A lot of times I'll do meals without meat. We try to do a lot of meals where we're just doing proteins by combining foods that are protein healthy. And so we'll just do those. These do have meat in them. This first one is called cowboy pasta. This is just your homemade hamburger helper without the hamburger helper sodium. So this one, I try to make sure that my meals have 400 or less milligrams of sodium. So that way I don't feel like my family's on overload. We're not drinking 600 pounds of water trying to overcome that. And so on this, I go ahead and chop up my own tomatoes. I go ahead and just do a few of those things. What's nice is you actually don't even have to make the meal like this and then do it. If you use all dehydrated ingredients to begin with, then we don't even have to worry about this. But if you make a meal from scratch, then you want to do that. So on this one, let's see. So this one, before being dehydrated, this is 3.5 cups. This is a portion for 2 adults and 2 children. So my family, we're two adults and 2 kids,